Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Varsity Voices podcast, where we bring you information and the inside scoop about Chicago Catholic League football, but we'll sprinkle in some topics and info on high school football in Illinois as well. I'm Joe Frevaletti, one of your hosts. I'm an avid Illinois high school football fan, former player in the WSCC, West Suburban Catholic Conference, which dates me a bit. Former college player and former broadcaster for games in the East Suburban Catholic Conference and the Chicago Catholic League. If you're looking for some better credentials, let me introduce you to the other host for the podcast, and that's my brother, Dan Frevaletti.
Hey, Joe. Thank you. This is great. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Welcome everyone, and I am happy to do this with you. I think it's a lot of fun. We've been talking about this for a while. I am a former coach. I coached just at Bennett Academy for the last 15 years. I was a player at Bennett back in the day. Played at Northwestern long time ago, prior to a lot of the good stuff happening, but still counts. Still have the sheepskin. So feel pretty good. I love this conference. I think it's the most interesting conference in the state for a lot of different reasons. But really happy to be here. I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun.
Yeah, and one of the things that's always been consistent between the two of us, Dan, over the years, is our passion for high school football in Illinois.
Yeah.
I mean, we've always followed it. We've always followed it closely. We've always asked a ton of questions of each other about what's happening here, what's happening there. You've provided some great insight over the years because of your coaching within the conference. But one of the things that's always been a little bit difficult for both of us, I think, is the I'll say the lack of coverage or the ability to find the information that fans like me and you and others who are listening really want, right?
And I think there's coverage. I don't know. There's a lot of coverage, but it's so segmented now. With the change in how news is brought in general, and the lack of newspaper reporting. There are a lot of good local people covering it, but a lot of it's segmented, and you can't possibly cover even this conference alone. Look at 24 teams. Kind of spaced all over the Chicago area. That covers several different media outlets. I know Shaw Local does a great job,
right?
And we probably shouldn't go any further without giving some props out to Edgy Tim, who's kind of the godfather of maybe not podcasting, but covering high school football in a different way and allowing people to have feedback and people's voices to be heard. And that's kind of kicked off where he's brought Steve Susi in, who's kind of the guru of the playoffs and has a lot of great information. So there is the information. So I think what we've said before is it's hard to find it in one spot unless you want to get behind paywalls for everything, right? So that's I think the biggest difference between now and I guess back in the day.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we're trying to do here, right, is because I'm the same as you. I'm on Edgy Tim. I'm reading some of the Shaw stuff, and they both cover it fairly well.
Daily Herald too.
Yeah, there's some gaps, in my opinion, in the information that's out there and being able to find it. So one of the things that you and I have talked about is that through this podcast and through the information that we're going to gather, hopefully we can fill in some of those gaps, right, in that coverage, right?
And we'll be able to talk. Obviously, our focus is going to be on the Catholic League, but the Catholic League plays a lot of non-conference, and there's going to be some things that bleed over. And you look at some of that. I've just taken a glance at some of the schedules. There are some great games to talk about out of conference that will give us conversation and content for schools outside of this conference. And we'll have gaps as well because it's like I said, there's how many schools in Illinois? And even in the Chicago area, it is it's impossible to try and find everything in one place. And that, even us, we're just two guys out here,
Right.
so it's we'll do the best we can. But I think what we've talked about is that having that focus on the Catholic League, which again I'll say is to me the best conference in the state. Um, should help us give some people some good content on a regular basis.
Yeah, and we can only cover so much too,
Right.
right? So if you're looking at the state of Illinois, high school football, who's the big dog from a conference standpoint, and that's proven out over the results over the last several years. It's the Chicago Catholic League. So yeah,
You
you
just
start
look at
there.
this. Yeah, look. I mean, just listen to this really quick, Joe. So last year, 2023, right? Quick recap of where the conference wrapped up. Give you an idea of the strength of it. 8A champions, Loyola Academy. 7A champions, Mount Carmel. 5A champions, Nazareth Academy. 5A runner-up, Joliet Catholic. 4A runner-up, St. Lawrence. 8A quarterfinalists, St. Ignatius. 5A semifinalists, St. Francis. 5A semifinalist, Providence Catholic. So that's all four teams in 5A from the Catholic League in the semifinals. I
Right.
mean, that's crazy. And then you 4A, quarterfinalist, IC, 3A semifinalist, Montini. So the conference is extremely healthy, and it shows no signs of weakening, this upcoming year.
Right. And getting healthier, right? I mean,
Right.
you've talked about some of these teams that nobody's really talked about for several years, like DePaul Prep and maybe Leo and maybe some of these other teams. Every year they seem to get a little better, a little stronger and stronger, and I
Yeah.
attributed that to some of the really good coaches who
Right.
are in the Chicago Catholic League now. You know,
Yeah.
some relatively new, some who've been around a long time, but I think those coaches really make a difference in how some of these teams are starting to perform, and you can really look at a lot of them that maybe people consider being at the bottom for
Yeah.
years and years, but they're making changes, they're making a difference, they're up
Oh,
and
yeah.
coming.
Yeah,
So
you look in the red division, and I know we'll get into conference breakdowns in future episodes, but De La Salle hires Harold Blackman. He got great credentials, great job at St. Lawrence. Was at Oaklawn, I think, for a few years. Now back in the Catholic League. Played at Northwestern. Played in the NFL. Had success at St. Lawrence. So it's just another big name. That's going to be in the conference and it's going to help prop up, De La Salle to where they probably think they should be. And there's no reason they can't compete. So yeah, it's exciting. And I think one of the cool things that people don't realize about this conference is that it's like European soccer, football, for
yeah,
in that it is one of the few conferences. I don't know if any others do this, and maybe the new mega conference that is the DuPage Valley and the Southwest Suburban might go to this as well. I think they're going to, but it's essentially relegation and promotion, and it is really interesting that these divisions within the Chicago Catholic League change on a, if not yearly basis. There may be a little funkiness because of COVID, and they may have changed twice in the last 2 years or once in each of the last 2 years, but they are. If you don't understand relegation, you should watch Welcome to Wrexham on Hulu or FX
right.
because they do a
Yeah,
great job in season one explaining it. But you bump up and down based on your success level. And now I know in the Catholic League, there's a couple other things that are important as far as who moves within the conference. And I hate to say up and down because in European soccer it comes with money, and there's no money involved as far as I know. As far
right.
in getting to a higher division, just but what it can mean is a difference in your playoff points. So there are teams that have bumped up in the past year, and I think the criteria, just to give everyone an idea of quickly how it goes, the criteria for moving up, there are 6 divisions within the Catholic League. There's red, purple, white, orange, green, blue. and I'm going to say blue is the highest, not because of anything else other than they typically are the largest schools. So that's one of the criteria. Your enrollment numbers for your school, but then they also take a look at your how many football players you have on your team and in your program, and as well as the success that you've had in previous years. And so they look at that and they say, let's rearrange this. And I think I'd be naive to say that there's not some horse trading going on during those
Yeah,
meetings
right.
after the season, but I like it. I think it's kind of a cool way to look at it. I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
So is the blue division, is that when you say that's the top level, so to speak, is it the top level or just the top enrollment
I
of
think it's
school?
a combination of the three. I think the what they look at are they do look at success, and it may be success on every level. That I'm not sure about. So varsity,
Yeah,
JV, or sophomores and freshmen, but they look at success. They look at total enrollment, just like the IHSA does for playoffs. And then they big one that's kind of different and might create some where you see some big schools like a Bennett, for example. That's in the purple division. They're a big school, but number of players in the program, and there are several of these schools that have seen numbers fluctuate over the past several years for whatever reason, and we could that's a whole episode unto itself, right?
right.
But so those three things: enrollment, number of players in a program, and success are kind of what they look at from year to year.
Yeah, one of the things when I was looking at the different divisions for this year, and I'm thinking about some of the schools, and they're like, oh yeah, we got moved to this division for whatever reason,
Right.
and they're like, oh, that's a better division for us to be in. We're going to be more competitive, blah blah blah. But then you look at some of the schools, that we talked about earlier, are like these up and coming programs and are not pushovers anymore. So
No.
even though somebody gets moved in another division, they may be thinking, oh, we're going to be a lot more competitive. I don't think it's that way anymore.
No two ways about it. There's no two ways about it. You think bumping again. We'll use the terms up and down, not meaning good or bad. Just kind of maybe how the league separates it, puts it on their website. But you go from orange to green, and you think, oh, that's great, or you go from blue to green for if you're St. Rita, and you think this is great, and you look and you've got NAS, IC, and St. Francis. I mean, come
Right.
on.
Yeah.
It is not, and some of the, and oh yeah, you're in Orange. Okay, that's the third division. Sure, there's Joliet Catholic, Marist, and Providence waiting for you,
Yeah.
right? So there is no such thing as an easy road in this conference. It just doesn't exist.
No. And, again, I think it's always been a tough conference,
Right,
right? But
right.
there's always been schools that have, kind of lagged behind and didn't really have good programs. One of the things I've noticed over the last couple of years or so is that, you can throw that out the window
Yeah.
now. Whatever game you're in, whoever you're playing, chances are you're going to be in a game, no matter
Oh yeah.
what. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to stay healthy, and I will give some of these teams credit. I mentioned it earlier, and we'll break down the conferences or the divisions in future episodes. But week one, Loyola, says, yeah, we'll play East St. Louis, bring it on,
Right.
and it's like wow, to look at that division schedule and what they have, and to go out and understand that they're going to have to play, a couple someone from the green and orange, and then think, all right, our non-conference, we're gonna do East St. Louis. Oh yeah, and for a break, week two, how about Glenbard West?
Right.
It is. They have really taken it on, but I do think that this conference prepares you. I think as we talk to coaches and players and whoever else we can get on in the future podcasts, and we're going to talk to coaches, but see, I think they would all say if we asked them what's the benefit of playing in this conference. What's one of the benefits? I think they would all say just how prepared you are for the playoffs. You know,
Yeah.
Nazareth, perfect example from
Yeah.
last year.
The other side of that, unfortunately, is if you make the playoffs, being in this conference. I mean,
Yes.
you need those 5 wins, and like we said, there's really no gimmies anymore. So, I mean, that really makes it tough.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. It's a challenge, no doubt about it.
Yeah. All right. So let's provide kind of a baseline
Sure.
for our listeners here, at least in regards to the conference. So we know the Chicago Catholic League, they call it now, and you could probably consider it a mega conference, right?
Mega conference.
Yes, from a
Yes.
high school. Yeah, I'm
We
not
need a
sure.
voiceover for that, don't we? Like, so we need
Oh,
something every time we say it or think about it. We should hit a button and
mega
some mega
conference.
conference. Yeah,
Yeah.
some like a transformer voice.
For the next episode, we'll have that. All right. Yeah.
Mega conference.
I don't know. Who would you consider the other mega conferences in Illinois?
I think it's what I can think of. It's the one that'll be new this year. The DuPage Valley, since the Wheatons left, and back in the day, several years ago now, they've had a tough time. They've had to play some conference opponents twice, and so they've joined with the Southwest Suburban for this upcoming season, and that I think is you could also refer to as where's it button mega conference,
Right.
and that is because that'll have all the Naperville schools, Nequa, Central, North, Matea, Wabanzi, and DeKalb, but and then all the Southwest Suburban. So you've got the Lincoln Ways, Bolingbrook, Homewood, Flossmoor, and so that's an awesome conference. There's no doubt about it. But I'm not gonna get too in depth of comparing conferences. Lincoln Way East has just had so much success in that conference. They kind of stand head and shoulder. I don't know. Maybe that's too hard. People in that conference will be mad at us right off the jump. But,
Right.
but they are clearly the premier team in that conference as far as just for recent success, and gosh, recent being the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, you can't argue with their success. They're I mean, last year in the state finals didn't quite go the way they wanted it to, right? But
right.
again, you're running up against some real juggernauts in the Catholic League, right?
Yeah.
So for me, watching some of those games, it's really, and there's the games throughout the year, some of the crossover games or some of the non-conference games where it's nice to kind of get that gauge of how good teams really are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times it's not till the end of the season, but it's and from a conference standpoint, right? How good is this conference versus this conference? I love to see those kinds of matchups.
Yeah, and again, future episodes of talking about public versus private, but yeah, I think I give these teams that are going to come in and play this conference, the Catholic League, a lot of credit too. You could avoid this conference, like the plague if you wanted to. You're really
I probably would. Yeah, if I were coaching, I probably would.
Right? Yes. Yeah, get me out of this conference. I know. Yeah. Talking to some of the coaches, they are scrambling in the off season for non-conference games where even if it's not an automatic W, something that they can do that gets them out of this conference for a game or two is really valued.
Yeah, if you can push off this conference to the playoffs, that's what you want to do.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
All right.
Yeah.
So back to the conference and the divisions for this coming year within the conference. Can you break that down a little bit as far as the red, purple, white, who's where for this year?
Sure. Yep. And I'm gonna start. I'll start with the blue division, which in my mind, and someone might correct me and say, no, that's not how this works. But I feel like I've got a decent handle on it. And the blue division has Loyola Academy in it. It's got Mount Carmel, Brother Rice. Those are all the three of the teams that were in the division last year. the newcomer to this conference, and very cool. We could argue who may have made sense here, but what this program has done, in the past few years, as far as improving on wins and losses and building the numbers within the program. St. Ignatius is the fourth member, and they were green member last year, but they have just done a great job in building that program, and lost. Oh, they lost. I think they may have lost to Mount Carmel in the playoffs last year. I could be wrong about that, but they've done a really nice job. They've had a resurgent program, high academic school. All these schools are great schools. I know Ignatius has a reputation, but they are in this division now, so makes it really interesting. The green division is the next one, and that this is interesting because there's no one left over from this division from last year. So here's where I think some of that horse trading happened. Where rather than one school comes up, one school goes down. You had St. Rita that was in the blue division last year. They now are in the green division. They won the Prep Bowl last year, so really successful program. Obviously, huge tradition, but they are now paired with IC Catholic, Nazareth, and St. Francis. So
Yeah.
good luck, and
Yes. Tough.
I mean, if I could have seen one thing just from a football perspective, I would have loved to have seen Nazareth in the blue division. That would be three state champions, from last year, and the run Naz went on, to win a state championship after getting in at 4-5. I know they've got everyone in the western suburbs probably considers Naz their rival, right? Because they've had
Right.
so much success. I think maybe four or five state titles, including last year, and head coach Tim Rackey's going in the Hall of Fame this year. 9 state championships. That program, what they've done over the past 20 years, they have really cemented themselves as kind of a legacy program, and it would have been fun to see them in the blue division. Not to take anything away from anyone that's in that division, but it would have been nice to see that. But they're going to be there with a lot of I think really built-in rivalries. St. Francis has been great, the past several years. Got a lot of talent. They're not not a ton of numbers. They are one of the schools that them and some of these western suburb schools. Bennett, I know some of these others have seen their numbers change over the past 15 years.
Right.
But St. Francis has got a great program, cool field, great uniforms, a lot of swag out at St. Francis. So division.
Yeah, that green division. I mean, I agree with you on the blue division.
Yeah.
I thought maybe one of these other schools like Naz or even some of the more, legacy type schools like Joliet Catholic
Yep.
or, would have ended up there. But I don't know who makes this final decision, which is interesting, right? Who
Yeah.
decides here? But definitely some horse trading going on. I mean, they're probably looking at some of the schools and saying these schools all play each other in the same division. Somebody's got to lose, right?
Right.
Even though they're an awesome team.
Yeah. I
Yes.
picture smoky room, right, and with
Right.
with a bunch of card tables around, and athletic directors pounding the table, and making their case, and voices getting loud. At least that's kind of how I hope it would be, right? I hope it's cantankerous in that
Yeah.
room.
Definitely would like to be a fly on the wall
For
for
sure.
for those meetings.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I bet they'd be fun. But yeah, getting back to this. So we've gone over blue and green. The orange division also, no holdovers from last year, so a completely new division. Um, so that has Providence Catholic, Joliet Catholic, Marist, and Notre Dame. I mean, right? It just doesn't get any. There's just no easy road in
No, it
this.
does not get any easier. As you look at the divisions, every one of the teams within these divisions is, like you said earlier, it's a meat grinder for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you want to hear something funny? I always, and I don't know if this is by design or not, but I feel like one of the most underrated is the wrong word because they lost in the state championship last year, and I think they have 13 or 14 titles. But Joliet Catholic, right? They are a powerhouse program.
Right.
And I don't know. We obviously we're in small circles, and Joliet, they're the biggest thing going. But I mean, they in this whole thing, they always seem to be like, it's almost like they're like, hey, just put us wherever you want. We're gonna do what we do, and we're gonna win a lot of football games doing what we do. We don't
Yeah.
care what division we're in. We don't care where we're at. And I could be wrong. Maybe they're ones pounding the table for being in a different division than the blue or the green. But I don't think so.
No.
I don't think. I think they say bring it on, whoever, wherever.
Yeah, maybe a couple of years ago, they might have had a different answer for that. But I think you're right. They don't care where they're at. They don't care who shows up to play them. They're going to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to do what they do.
Catholic, yeah. Right. I don't. Well, we aren't on video yet, but at some point we will be. But I put up, just in case, I put up JCA's buck sweep on my whiteboard. It's, I think, the most iconic play in Illinois high school football.
Yeah, I see it. I see it in my nightmares.
Joliet Catholic could come up to the line. I used to tell our players this back when I coached. And by the way, not coaching anymore, so no bias towards, no Bennett bias, regardless of what people might think. But I used to tell people when they'd say, "Oh, they're guessing our plays. They know our plays. They got our signals." I'd say, Joliet Catholic comes up to the line of scrimmage and essentially would say, "We're going to run power to the right. Go ahead and stop it." Right?
Yeah. I think the quarterback says that, right? He says power right on two. Yeah. Like, okay, see if you can stop it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Seems to work. It's a great formula. It's worked for 70 years. Unreal. But yeah. So the Orange Division, as interesting as anything else you'll find out there. Marist is came from the green, as well as Notre Dame. So two storied programs. Marist has got Division I kids, all over. And they have a great history. So that's going to be a really interesting conference. Moving to the White, the White has two new members. So the members who were in the White division last year are Montini and St. Lawrence. So you've got a quarterfinalist or two semifinalists. No, quarterfinalists and semifinalists. I have to look again real quick. Montini was a semifinalist, and St. Lawrence was runner-up. So you've got those two to contend with. Just when you think things may have gotten a little easier, Fenwick comes from the Orange division, so they move from that from the Orange into the White, and Carmel Mundelein comes from the Purple division into the White. And Carmel's interesting to me because I felt like there aren't. I don't know if there's any double jumpers. I don't know that anyone has gone up two divisions or down two divisions.
Yeah.
But Carmel, if I'm thinking of it, is one that could have jumped up based on some of those factors that we talked about early on. I think they're loaded. I think they've got studs.
McKee has done a really good job.
Since
he's been there. Because they were down for several years in a row.
Yeah, highest to the high. Down pretty significantly out of the playoffs, and now they are back.
He's got them back on track for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Division I quarterback who's just going to be a sophomore, I think, should be really exciting. Already got offers, and so they're definitely going to be a team to follow. That's going to be a great division. In the Purple division, so we're now into our fourth division here, 4 out of 6. So again, just to remind people, there are 6 4-team divisions. The purple division, the ones that remain from last year, St. Pat's and St. Viator. The new teams moving from the white division to the purple division is Bennett Academy, and then DePaul Prep is moving from the red division to the purple division. So again, this is kind of outside of DePaul Prep. These are three old ESCC teams. So
Right.
some
Yeah.
great built-in rivalries there, and we obviously we have a long-standing relationship with Bennett, and so they have moved divisions. I think they're 2 times in 2 years where they've moved. They have Bennett's been 4-5. Right, they are like the poster child for if you could only get in, but they've been 4-5. I think 3 years in a row now,
Right.
and with being I think in those 3 years I think they've been 4-4 going into the last week and haven't been able to pull off that last week victory. So I know Pat New will be itching. That's probably something they're talking about a lot at Bennett. Is they want to take it game by game, of course, but we all know that in the coaches' offices, they're talking about at least getting to that fifth win.
Yeah. Well, this purple division, they can be sneaky good
Oh
this
yeah,
year.
oh yeah.
So if any school in there is thinking, oh, great, we're in the purple division, that gives us a better shot. I don't know. When you look at some of these teams and who they got coming back and what they did last year, plus the growth of a team like DePaul, it can be a sneaky good division here.
Yeah, I mean, you St. Viator, right? They have Komet at quarterback back for another year. I mean, he is a great player, and he is a guy that can carry a team, to a division title, by himself. Get on my back, Cooper Komet, get on my back, and we can go ahead and ride this division, and take this all the way, roll into the playoffs. So there is that kind of talent up and down these divisions, and I know that St. Pat's, is on the upswing. DePaul Prep definitely on the upswing. They're a whole athletic program. They're state champions in basketball, and I think that kind of stuff feeds from one sport to another. They're one that is building numbers, and I think they're going to be a team to watch. This season, really interesting and challenging, and which takes us to the red division. So it's funny, the red and the blue had the most continuity. There had to be, right. If three are staying in one division, then three are going to stay in another division. So the members who were in this division last year, you've got De La Salle. We talked about new coach Harold Blackman this year, so that'll be something to watch. Leo is in year two of kind of a new regime with Coach Stevenson. There, I know that they've had a great couple years on their lower levels as far as getting more kids in and more kids playing football. So they should be on the upswing. It'll be the second year. Marian Catholic, really good, coming back to the Marian Catholic of not only the 15 years ago, but 30 years ago when we played them, and it
Right.
was it was it was a horrible Friday night to have to travel down to Calumet City and play at Marian Catholic. It was you knew you were in for war, but Nick Lopez is doing a good job, and they're a playoff team and should be better this year. And then the newest member, also so these are really new coaches. So that's another thing that really makes this interesting. Brand new coach Adam Guerra. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but Adam Guerra is a new coach this year. Came back to coach in the Chicago Catholic League. So he's familiar with it. I think this is going to be really interesting. Really interesting division. A lot of teams that had a lot of youth, played a lot of youth last year. I know Marmion is a really proud program that struggled last year, but I would imagine that they're a team that could do a quick turnaround. I know De La Salle has some exciting young players. Same with Leo and Marian Catholic's always got studs. Somewhere they play a really good brand of football. So yeah, the divisions are. Don't look for a cakewalk. Don't look for. I know this is a baseball/softball reference, but don't look for the daisy pickers anywhere
Right.
in
Yeah.
this in any.
Well, the red division to me is very interesting, just to see how this kind of plays out this year with these teams. Like you said, you would probably say some of these teams have kind of flown under the radar, right, for the
Yeah,
last several years. But they're all starting. They've all either starting or they've turned the corner as far as where they're at from a program standpoint. So I'm really interested to see who kind of comes out of this division, this red division, because
yeah,
it could be one of the next powerhouses of the CCL, right?
right. And we talked about DePaul bumping up to that purple division with a little bit bigger schools, and they could be one to watch that from last year. But I think you've got the opportunity, and I think if I'm asking young kids to come play football at any one of these schools, I'm using the Chicago Catholic League as a tool, right? To say this is where we play in. I don't know if some of these schools think, oh gosh, we get lost in this, like you mentioned. Some of these smaller schools will say if they feel like, hey, if we could divide this up, but man, if I'm them, I'm talking about the Catholic League, Catholic. Come be a part of the Catholic League.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the benefits, side benefits, whatever you want to call it, is if you're playing in the Catholic League, you're going to get the exposure, right,
Yeah,
as a player and as a coach, obviously, too. So, I mean, that's big considering where the high school game is at these years, or where the high school game is at right now, and what a lot of the players are looking for. They all want to go on and play in college, right?
right.
If you
Right.
want to get that exposure, you want to get the looks. The college recruiters are definitely looking at the Chicago Catholic League, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because when you look at college recruiting, one of the things that I think comes up when people recruit is what's the competition like? What is the competition that this person played against? Are these other teams terrible? Is this just the one great athlete on the field every Friday night? Or are they playing against great competition week in week out? So if I'm a player who wants to play college football, I'm highlighting, hey, we play in the Chicago Catholic League. There are no rollovers in this league, and
Right.
so week in and week out, you can believe what you see on my game film, coach, because I'm playing in the Chicago Catholic League. I know not everyone can say that, and it always comes up.
Yep. Yeah, it does. Well, I think this has been really good information. Like we said, kind of a baseline as far as
Yeah,
where we're getting started here from a conference standpoint, and knowing the divisions and knowing some of the matchups. So I think going forward in our next episodes, we're gonna dive a little deeper in all of these different divisions, look at the teams a little bit more detail, um, look at some of the big matchups as far as games that are going to be played. So, but like I said, this is some good information, at least to get us started here. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, I what I'd like to do is talk about what we're going to cover in our next episode, Dan.
Okay.
Um, which, by the way, for people listening, um, will be a week from now, right? Our plan is to release an episode a week. In some cases, maybe more than that, but as of right now, get your information every week if you tune in and subscribe to the Varsity Voices podcast. So,
Hey, Joe, and I don't know if people know this, but these teams are practicing,
yeah,
so they are out there. The reason we're starting now is because the teams are starting now, and they're on the fields every day. So in some cases, they've got 25 days where they can have full practices. Now they're just in helmets and shoulder pads, But they're doing full practices, contact, installing offense, defense. So I know one of the things. I don't want to preempt you, but I've reached out to a couple coaches, and I'd like to interview some of those coaches and have them come on the podcast in the future.
Yeah, that'll be great information. Being able to talk to the coaches, some of them new, like we said, some of them who've been around a long time and very successful, just to get to kind of the way they think and, the way they operate and the things that they look for. I think that'll be invaluable information for us to have and for our listeners to have too. So, yeah, so next episode, we'll dive into the divisions a little bit more, do some team previews, maybe get a coach interview, coach or two interview for the next episode. And we'll also dive into, some of the top players and players to watch, in each of these divisions and on each of these teams. So, make sure that that you subscribe to Varsity Voices, and you get that information, that we'll be sharing every week with you. And if you have a question or you want to send some kind of information to us, feel free to do that via email at varsityvoices312@gmail.com. You can send comments, ask questions. We'll be sure to address them during our episodes, but feel free to do that. Anything else you want to add, Dan?
Be nice in your comments. We're early on. No, I'm just kidding. Anything is on the table. If you want to tell us it's we need to work on X, Y, Z. We're certainly willing to do that. And in some of my preliminary talks with coaches, I'm excited. The coaches are excited about having something like this. That's focused on the conference. So that'll be a big part. Hopefully, I've gotten great response so far, so hopefully that continues. I by this time next week, hopefully we'll have an interview that we can plug in here.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us and for listening.